Hey, leave your emotions at the door. We make decisions here based on data, not emotions. How many times have you heard that? But is it real? Can we do that? Of course not, right? Our emotions shape our decisions. Our experiences help us decide where we want to go and the things that might be possible or available to us. Hey, my name is Carrie. Welcome to my channel, the KT Center for Leadership. Really getting into behind the scenes, real conversations about leadership. Here we address the tough things about what it means to step in and to be a leader. So like, subscribe, and let's get to it. So talking about feelings, talking about empathy in the workplace. It is so important that we understand empathy and how it plays a part. I'm a Gen Xer, right? So we never talked about emotions growing up. I don't even know if we had any, to be honest with you, right? Like it was just not something that we didn't address, right? You might feel a certain way and you pull your bootstraps up and you get after it, right? You go back, figure it out. And I didn't necessarily stop and ask my friends how they're feeling about a situation. It just wasn't part of our life. But Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better. And I think that's where we're at today in leadership. As we understand the impact that emotional intelligence and empathy can really have on collaboration. The workplace has changed. Like people aren't going into top-down leadership. They're not starting a job and just sitting at their desk waiting for somebody to bark orders at them. People are really looking from high up leadership all the way through the organization, are looking for people to invest in, to buy in, to bring their knowledge and expertise to make the whole organization better. We can't do that without understanding emotional intelligence. We can't do that without bringing empathy to the workplace. So just imagine like you're going to sit down for a job interview for an organization, and you as the interviewee ask the organization, tell me about your workplace culture. And they say, well, basically it's shit, right? Like we're very toxic. People are going to talk behind your back. Any idea that you bring up is going to get shot down. Nobody's going to listen to your problems, and you might get yelled at. Sounds awesome, right? Like who wants to work at a place like that? Yet we actually have organizations that are functioning in that way. So as leaders, how do we shift that organization? How do you shift your leadership to be more supportive? And empathy is not a weakness. It doesn't mean that we are making decisions based on feelings, but it does mean that we understand that people's experiences are valuable. And when people are listened to, where they have a voice, they feel valued and they buy in, right? They have ownership in what comes out of our work together because I was part of creating it. So as leaders, some things that we really maybe need to think about doing. One, we have to build that trust with our employees. We have to build the trust with the people who are next to us, or the people who are above us, or the people who are working underneath us in an organization. What does that really look like? How do we build that trust? Well, one is just to understand yourself. Understand where my strengths are, my leadership strengths, the qualities that I bring to an organization, understanding areas that I struggle with, and recognizing those strengths and weaknesses in others as well, right? If I can look at another employee and I can say, you know what, I'm really great at big picture thinking. Like I can see 5 years from now where we're gonna be. I can envision our organization having these things. What I really struggle with is kind of what we need to be doing today, the tasks that are going to help us get there. But you're really great at really being at the taskmaster part of that. So how do we bridge that gap? What are the things that we can do to work together to make sure that the things that we're doing today are going to get us to our larger vision, right? So how do we figure that out? Well, there's a lot of personality assessments out there, and I think they're all valuable if you use them in the right way. Taking a personality assessment and then putting it on the shelf and never talking about it or using it doesn't really help anybody. I'm a little biased. I am a Lumina practitioner, and I use Lumina with teams. One, I love it because it doesn't put people in a box, right? I think A lot of personality assessments, we are labeled as something. I'm labeled as an extrovert, and in reality, I'm not. I can be extroverted when I need to be, but when you put me in a room of extroverts, I'm hiding in the corner. Like I'm just I'm not gonna fight for the spotlight. So I also, when I've been in front of a lot of people, I re-energize by being alone, by reading a book, by watching a movie, right? So I am both of those, and I really appreciate Lumina that talks about that. It really embraces that paradox of being on both sides, because we have the ability to do all of those. And our personalities change based on who we're working with, or the situation of which we are working in, the stress level, right? All of those things can change. We can adapt our behavior in order to do what is needed in that space. It also really gets down deep into understanding the qualities, 24 qualities that we all bring, and how we can lean into and pull them, or how they show up for us in all scenarios. How does it look when we're just home with our friends? Or what does that mean when I'm showing up at work? Because again, that changes based on my responsibility. And then what happens when I get stressed out? So using something, a tool like Lumina, can be super helpful. One, just to create that common language that you can share with your staff, with your team, to be able to say like, hey, you know what, I'm just really kind of stuck today in the data, and I just need some help, and help me kind of get through this and let go of being afraid to kind of move on, because I don't feel like we have all the pieces yet, right? What is it that I'm missing? So again, it gives kind of that shared language to have those honest and authentic conversations about where you are and how you're approaching situation. I think also modeling that is super important, right? Be able to model vulnerability, to be able, like, I just don't know. I don't know the answer. Let's figure it out together. Or to be able to say, like, I'm just not in the space today where I can really take on this conversation. And I've worked in organizations where, like, I've had a problem, or there's something that I'm recognizing that isn't quite right, and I feel like I need to go report it to my supervisor. But my supervisor sometimes I'm a little bit unsure of their emotional state. And so it's kind of, I'm assessing the situation, right? Like, can I go into their office and talk about this? Or are they in a really bad mood? Are they just going to yell at me? Are they not going to listen to me? Are they distracted, right? And we have all those things that kind of go through our head because we've had experiences with them that really were unproductive. And so then what ends up happening? That employee goes back, sits at their desk, puts their head down, and just kind of works through the day, doesn't really address, even though they know there's something not right. Why didn't they come to you? Because they don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable, because they're not sure how your reaction is going to be. So that emotional intelligence for us is also knowing, like, how do other people perceive us? What's the feedback that we get? How do I handle stress? Like, life is full of stress, and a changing environment in our workplace heightens that stress. It also, is impacted by our day-to-day lives and the things that are going on in our life. But are we really aware of how that affects our relationship and our communication? What are the things that we can start to notice in ourselves, that the physical changes in our body that are giving us the signals that we're hitting to that place that's now ineffective, right? It's ineffective for me to go from being an outcome-driven person to, just being so stressed out that it's a win at all costs, and I don't care what we need to do or who it impacts or who we have to run over to get it, right? There's a balance between what's an effective quality and then really we're really taking it too far. So as a leader, recognizing on ourselves when we're about to kind of cross that line, and then having a ritual or having something that helps us bring us back to that center, right? What do I need to do to make sure that I am taking this from a place of logic, or a place that's really practical, or a place that's really open and collaborative, and I really want to hear from other people. And again, being able to recognize that as a team. I've worked with teams too, where we know each other so well that we can identify, even in a Zoom meeting when we're showing up, and that energy of everybody seems really stressed out right now. And Can we take a moment, collect ourselves, and approach the issue that we're going to deal with in this meeting right now? Or do we just need to reschedule it, right? Because there's a danger too of pushing through things when we're really stressed out and we have a lot of other things going on, right? We have some people who are gonna completely detach and I'm so stressed, I can't even listen to you anymore. I'm disconnected. And that's me. When I get to that breaking point, I'm just no longer invested. I'm just gonna sit in that meeting and not say anything. We have other people who are gonna argue for the sake of argument, right? They're not going to listen to anybody anymore. I'm just bringing an argument, and it might not even be about the situation that we're even talking about. So being able to say as a team, we're just not gonna approach this in the best place right now. What do we need to do, right? Let's reschedule this. Let's come back. So if we push through, there is the unintended consequence of us really doing some damage, not only in impulsive decisions that we might be making, but actually damaging trust and relationship, because we may say something in the moment that isn't really what we intended to say. So again, as leaders, really being aware of what that looks like, being able to model that vulnerability and say, you know what, today's just not the right time. So I just encourage you, as we think about leadership, as we think about how we're approaching people, what does that really look like? What do people around us, how do they perceive us? How do they know what to say to us when we're in difficult situations? What do I need to do when I hear feedback that is maybe a little surprising to me, where I thought I was handling it, right? I thought I was hiding and covering my stress, but obviously because people are avoiding me when I start walking down the hall, that maybe I'm not. What do I need to do in order to, function and center myself into a space where I'm now more approachable? Think about that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you do and your experiences in those situations where, we're just creating a culture where people feel heard and valued. What do you do as a leader? How do you show that to the people around you? How do you model that? And what might be some tools that you use? Until next time.